Drone warfare is becoming obviously very prevalent.
Absolutely critical. This is the future of warfare, is like lots and lots of manufactured, smart, weaponized, autonomous drones, whether they're flying, whether they're on the water, whether they're under the water, whether they're on the land. Like that is the future of warfare as far as I'm concerned.
Watch this video to gain a deeper understanding of the complex forces driving modern warfare and national security. It explores critical issues like the military-industrial complex, the wastefulness of traditional defense methods, and innovative solutions like energy weapons.
So, one of the reasons I'm bringing this up is obviously I'm just extremely curious of what your thoughts are. But another reason is, I've been reading reports on CNN. People are posting the neighborhood watch groups and the Facebook groups and stuff, and they're freaking out. And what I find probably isn't a coincidence, because I believe in a higher power, but you founded Epirus.
Yeah.
And Epirus is a directed energy, basically a directed EMP weapon. And it is,
Yeah.
it seems to me from the reading I've done on it, it's defense against drones.
Epirus is a really important company, and I'm proud to be a co-founder there with it. It's not just, I can't take credit for it by myself. There's a few other people who are critical. Nathan Mintz, Bomar, the other guys. Grant stepped in and played a key role. The background on that, by the way, is, I'd gotten out of defense for a few years because after Palantir, it's like hard. You have to go talk to senators, you have to go to the DOD. It's like, this is stressful stuff. I built companies elsewhere, like you mentioned. But then, we saw in the early 2010s, we saw a lot of our smartest friends in China were being forced to have their engineers work on military projects. And we said, wait a second, this is not good. And then we saw our defense primes, were not able to attract the best talent at all. So we had in America, these defense primes had all consolidated in the 90s. And obviously Palantir had to compete against them on software side and crushed them. But their hardware side was also going downhill. It was also getting worse.
Epirus, being a directed energy solution to counter drones, is a perfect example of innovation responding to evolving threats. It's impressive how this technology isn't just reactive, but proactive in redefining defense systems. What's striking is the acknowledgement that traditional defense primes have struggled to attract top talent, making initiatives like these even more critical to national security.
And this is a big problem that China's getting better, it's getting worse here. And then it turned out that Xi Jinping guy is clearly a commie who's going to try to confront us. He's going to be a serious adversary. And that got scary. And then a bunch of my friends, three of the best guys from Palantir with Palmer Luckey, started the Anduril. And so we backed that early. And it basically convinced me, at the time, looking at all these things and looking at Anduril, we better get back involved in defense. So we said, okay, we're back involved in defense. What are we going to do? We need to get more of our best and brightest from the tech world, which I'm lucky to come from and have access to work on these problems. And we mapped out about 20 different areas. And we decided to start Epirus first and decided to build that because exactly the future of warfare seemed very clearly to be heading towards drone warfare. And it's just not sustainable to fire missiles at drones, right? You're spending $1 million or $100,000 to shoot down something that it costs a lot less than that. So you need a one-to-many effect. You need to be able to shoot cones of energy. And the thing we realized, really with the help of some really smart people like Bo and Nathan, is that it turns out that the chips in Silicon Valley had gotten to be so powerful and so fast that they can help you control power on very small timescales and get the power to hit the emitter and then fire way farther than anything anyone else was doing.
Isn't it wild how unsustainable the current defense approach against drones is? The economics alone make it clear. Why spend hundreds of thousands on a single missile when energy-based solutions offer a cost-effective, scalable alternative? This shift toward directed energy weapons feels like a no-brainer. But it raises another question. Can the U.S. tech sector pivot fast enough to outpace adversaries like China, who are aggressively advancing in this space?
And so the emitters was called gallium nitride. It's just a super efficient way of shooting.
Gallium nitride.
Gallium nitride is a GAN, they call them GAN is the element, code. The gallium nitride, these are super efficient emitters, and these exist in other places too. It's a big breakthrough that was really started to be used in the last kind of like 10, 15 years in a bunch of different contexts. But it turns out if you use the AI chips, get the power to hit the gallium nitride, you're taking a bunch of power and you're kind of condensing it into like a 10,000th of a second or even less of a thing. And so you have this burst. It's a super fast burst. And the burst is intense enough because it's so condensed that when it hits the drone, when it hits the electronics, it fries them, destroys them. And then there's all sorts of things you do to kind of tune the burst and figure out how to actually do it most efficiently and effectively to fry these things as well. And, we're now, I'm not supposed to say quite how far away, but you're shooting things down from miles away. You're shooting
Miles away.
and it's not just like the little tiny, like, DJI drones or whatever they're called. It's like, these are the big things that Iran's making for Russia as well. They could take down quite a far distance away. And what's really cool is you're not just doing it. So you're doing it for bases, you're doing it for forward attacks.
The combination of gallium nitride and AI chips creating these ultra-condensed bursts of energy is nothing short of revolutionary. It's impressive to see how this tech can not only handle small, commercially available drones, but also advanced military-grade ones. This capability transforms defense strategies, protecting both bases and forward positions with unmatched efficiency.
But you can put these things, you put smaller versions in the cones. So for example, Anduril's Roadrunner, you've seen that, right? The thing that takes off and lands again.
Yeah.
You can put it in one of those missiles, and and that one's not going to work that as far because it's a smaller form factor. But that missile can get up and get pretty close to the bad guy drones, fire a bunch of them, and then come back and land. And so there's things like this that you do now too.
So how many drones could one of these? What do you call the actual weapon? Is it Leonidas?
Leonidas is the first version of the product that's being forward deployed with CENTCOM and is just going out actually in the next month, which is great. The tests have shown you could do about 100 drones at a time in certain contexts.
100 drones at a time?
I mean, if they're together and flying together, and then the thing moves. So you fire. What's great? So you know why it's called Epirus? So the Epirus was the bow of Theseus. Theseus was the guy who started Athens in Legend, right? And in Legend, his bow had infinite arrows. And so that's the point here is you're firing electronic power. So you effectively have infinite arrows. So this thing can fire thousands of times. And each shot costs almost nothing.
Wow. So that gives us hope.
Leonidas can handle 100 drones at a time. How much more scalable could this tech become with future iterations? The idea of using energy as an infinite, near-costless defense mechanism completely changes the rules of engagement. Isn't this exactly the type of innovation we need to make adversaries rethink their strategies entirely?
So basically, all these drones in New Jersey, if we wanted to, they could, deploy a Leonidas and
take it down that way. I don't know if they want to, they could shoot down right now with any number of different types of missiles. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But this exactly. I mean, I think there's probably rules from the FAA about, there's always regulators about what you could do on shore and where you could do it and how you could do it. But I mean, eventually you'll probably have things like Leonidas protecting stadiums, protecting airports. That was another reason we started it, by the way, is, when we were building Palantir, one of the big focuses was stopping terror attacks, and working and partnering to stop terror attacks, with the United States intelligence community, which I think we're very helpful in doing. And so I have it on my mind. Maybe it's kind of a sick thing, but what's a bad guy going to do? Right? You kind of have to put yourself in the bad guy's shoes and figure it out. And one of the things a bad guy could do, which would be horrible, maybe I shouldn't talk about it too much, is you can attack a stadium, right? You can get lots of little drones. You could put little explosives and cameras on them. It'd be really scary. And so I think our stadiums are going to need to be defended by things like this.
The mention of drones attacking a stadium is chilling, but it underscores the critical importance of forward-thinking defense solutions. Systems like Leonidas have the potential to neutralize such threats efficiently, even in high-risk civilian areas. By combining Palantir's history in counterterrorism with cutting-edge tech, this approach could redefine public safety on a massive scale.
Well, yeah, I mean, I had a former CIA targeter in here just a couple days ago. We just released the interview now, and actually yesterday, and she's talking about, there are at least 1,000 very well-trained terrorists within our borders right now.
Yeah, it pisses me off, man. It's crazy. There's some really amazing judges I know who are, one of them actually was just involved in this, well, that doesn't matter, a really great decision against the SEC last week. But they would go down to the border and they assign them to help because they're overloaded, right, with the cases. And some of the Biden administration judges were letting in people on the watch lists. And they're like, what are you doing? You can't let them in. He said, no, we're instructed to let in everyone. And it's like, I still saying it, I don't even believe it, but this is what I'm told by multiple people. There's been, I think Chip Roy, the congressman, wrote about it as well. Isn't that crazy? They're letting in these people into our country. What are they doing?
What do you think they're doing?
I think it's like this weird ideology where they just, they're probably trying to spend a lot of money while bringing down inflation by bringing in more people. And B, it's just some weird open border ideology. I don't understand it. But the fact that you'd let people in, even on watch lists, I guess they think it's not actually dangerous. I don't know. I think these people don't think in terms of like you and I, in terms of there's bad guys and there's good guys, and we got to keep people safe, and we have this like adversarial relationship with some other countries. It's almost like they're just like extremely naive people who live in a different type of world than we do. I don't know. It's weird stuff, man.
The idea of at least 1,000 trained terrorists within U.S. borders is deeply unsettling. It raises urgent questions about how border policies are balancing humanitarian concerns with national security risks. The mention of individuals on watch lists being allowed entry adds another layer of complexity and frustration. How do we ensure these processes prioritize safety without becoming overly politicized? While some might attribute this to ideological differences or naivety, the stakes are far too high for leniency in such cases. Border security isn't just about managing immigration, it's about safeguarding citizens against genuine threats. Proactive intelligence and a cohesive strategy are critical here. Are we doing enough to bridge the gap between policy intentions and real-world consequences?
Do you think that they want something to happen for a particular reason? To start a war?
It's possible.
I mean, if they come in,
yeah, it's possible.
and do another terrorist attack, then we go right back to war. That spins up the military-industrial complex.
There could be someone. There could be someone who's that sick in the military-industrial complex. I mean, I fall in between these factions because on one hand, I think we wasted trillions of dollars over in Afghanistan and Iraq, and probably shouldn't have been there in the way we were. I mean, obviously we had to do something after the 9/11 attack, but we probably shouldn't have gone and stayed there and spent all the money and all the lives, right? But but it's the same time we do need to stop the bad guys from causing problems. But yeah, I think there are some pretty sick people who are much more aggressive about just like always being at war, which is terrible.
Yeah, that's one of the things. That's one of the things I love about what you're doing is with the traditional military industrial complex companies, we're shooting down $500 drones with $1 million missiles.
It's crazy, man. It's not sustainable.
With a company like what you have, Epirus, I mean, it's not that way. It's an energy. It's an energy weapon.
This is the goal. Is we're not cost plus people. I think there's this really sick disease of people that their whole incentive is cost plus. They just want to use more of their stuff and sell more of their stuff, and their incentives are pretty screwed up. I think the better way to do it is exactly you gotta make things much cheaper and better, and then change the incentives around, have it be more like a software thing, not like a thing where you're just selling as many as possible at 6%.
The suggestion that some within the military-industrial complex might benefit from perpetuating conflict is unsettling, but not entirely implausible. It's a harsh reality that in some cases, war can become profitable, fueling the very system that keeps it alive. However, there's a stark contrast between the wastefulness of past wars and the kind of solutions Epirus offers. Energy weapons that are far more sustainable and cost-effective. The focus on reducing the costs of defense and shifting from a cost-plus mentality is a critical change. Shouldn't the goal be to deter conflict by making defense both effective and efficient without the perverse incentives driving endless war? This discussion highlights the pressing issues within the military-industrial complex, from the inefficiency of expensive, outdated defense systems to the unsettling possibility that some may profit from conflict. It challenges us to reconsider our approach to national security, focusing on more sustainable and cost-effective solutions like Epirus energy weapons. The conversation underscores the need to adapt to modern threats, like drone warfare, while questioning the underlying motivations driving our defense strategies. Ultimately, it's a call for innovation, ethics, and smarter, more responsible military practices in a world that demands a shift in how we think about defense and global security.